Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the St. Louis Blues. As of course you guys know, the big story here over the past couple of weeks has been goaltender Jordan Binnington, and for all the wrong reasons, and we're going to get to that today. So there's a lot of context to this whole Jordan Binnington thing. Now, obviously, you guys remember his rookie season was the 2019 NHL season where he inevitably came in and they ended up winning the Stanley Cup and brought the Stanley Cup to St. Louis. But since then, things have been a little bit rocky with Binnington in St. Louis. And at the time, you have to remember it was the end of his first contract, right? He signed his entry-level contract, signed a couple of one-year deals with the St. Louis Blues. And then on the final year, at the end of one of those contracts, we started to see, some of that potential that he had. And obviously winning a Stanley Cup was a big part of that. But the question at the time was, would Binnington try to sign long-term right off of that Stanley Cup championship? Because, listen, that's as good as it gets, right? And he did sign a 2-year deal, and that was actually a good decision at the time. That was signed back in July of 2019, just a couple of weeks after winning the Stanley Cup. A 2-year deal, $8.8 million, $4.4 million per season. So that's some of the context for you. And at the time, that looked like a good move. And if he's really that good, we'll sign him to that big ticket, at the end of those 2 years. He has to prove it for another 2 years in the NHL, longer term, and then we're going to give him that ticket. So there's a price to be paid for that. It's, you're taking a little bit more risk long term because now after that 2-year deal, if he's still playing well, he's going to get a good contract. And that's inevitably what happened. So that's what happened. In March of 2021, 2 years after that deal, he signed another extension to stay in St. Louis, 6 years, $36 million, and $6 million per season. The first 3 years, which we are currently in the second year of that contract, he has a full no-trade clause, which makes things extraordinarily difficult for the St. Louis Blues, even if they were to think about trading Binnington at this point. So that's kind of the context. And we've known for the last couple of years, he's had a couple of games. I remember, I think it was last year or 2 years ago against San Jose. He kind of threw a punch at Carlson. He kind of got into it with Dubnyk as he was skating off the ice. I mean, this is not anything necessarily new for Binnington, except it's happening way more regularly than it used to. And that's kind of where we're at with Binnington. He's lost 5 straight games for the Blues in between the pipes. He got pulled in his most recent game against the Penguins. He had already given up 4 goals, basically not even 3 minutes into the second period against the Pittsburgh Penguins, where he inevitably got pulled. He kind of punched Jason Zucker, who was skating by behind the net. He was jawing at the Penguins bench when he was getting kicked out of the game. He got a misconduct. I mean, there's no reason for that. And inevitably, it got to the point where, listen, I think Craig Berube is one of the best coaches in the NHL right now, and he really kind of laid into Binnington and did not defend him because he's holding him accountable. And I think that's something that sometimes you have to do. And I think he did a really good job of that. He put it in a really good way, but he didn't really sugarcoat it either. He was really good with the way he handled it. So this was Blues head coach Berube on the Jordan Binnington situation when he was asked in the post-game scuffles. He said that the antics have to stop. Just play goalie. Stop the puck. Enough is enough. And that's the head coach of the St. Louis Blues. Now, that kind of leads us into what happens next. Now, there's a couple of different things the Blues can do. And I think trading him is the least likely scenario. I think that is kind of off the table because I don't think he wants, he's got that full no trade clause, which is going to make it difficult. And you're also looking at a situation here where I don't think anybody's going to really want him, right? So that's part of it. You also have to look at it in the sense of, do they maybe send him to the minors for a couple of games and just kind of get him out of St. Louis, get him out of his home, get him out of his just environment, and to try and just reset, just hit a reset button, right? Maybe going over to Springfield with the Thunderbirds for a week or two, come back before Christmas, and you kind of figure it out there. So I don't know what it's going to take here because he has not been good all year. He's got a sub 900 save percentage throughout this season. Like, he just has not been good, and the Blues fans are getting sick of it, and I don't blame them. You know, it's getting to the point where he's just becoming a distraction for this hockey team, and this team has not played well at all this season. It has been a rough season for the St. Louis Blues. And again, you look at his situation. Listen, you could get away with being the young guy thing for a while. He's 29 years old now. You know, you have to, at some point, get to the point where you start to mature a little bit, and it hasn't been happening for Binnington, and it's just one of those things that it's frustrating. I get it. You know, he obviously cares. He's got the heart there. You just cannot be doing that every game. You need to be more in, you know, you have, mentally, goaltenders are the weirdest people in the world because of how they're able to handle it, right? That's why it's such a big deal when they freak out, because the stage is always on the goaltender. And you look at other goalies around the league that are struggling. Do you see Igor Shesterkin in New York? Much bigger stage than St. Louis, a team that's not doing well. Do you see him running out of the net, freaking out, jawing at the other team? No. And that's the thing. Like, there are other players around the league in between the pipes that struggle, but who are we always talking about? It's always Jordan Binnington, and I hope he's able to figure it out. I don't know the situation. I don't know what's going on at home for him. He's a guy that's very quiet, you know, on social media and things like that. He really doesn't really give us much, you know, in terms of the public. So I hope there's no, you know, again, this is all speculation, so take with it what you will, but obviously you hope there's no mental issues or substance abuse or some other form of just distraction off the ice that's just really bothering him. Hopefully all it is just him just being way too far in his head. You know, they say that, you know, I think Binnington is an example of this. You know, your biggest critic is usually yourself, and I think Binnington is kind of just dragging himself down at this point. So I hope that's all it is. I hope he gets out of this. You know, the St. Louis Blues are on the West Coast, so I don't really hate them as much, being in the Western Conference. You know, my teams are on the East, so I don't care that much. But obviously, I hope that things get a little bit better for the Blues and they're able to make this somewhat of a decent season. This is a big year for the Blues. Tarasenko is a year away from free agency. Ryan O'Reilly is a free agent this summer if they don't get something done. This is a big year coming up in 2023 for the St. Louis Blues, and you wonder if they are going to hit the panic button on Binnington and see if, is our team just not that good, or is our goaltender just a head case and is just really dragging us down? I think they're going to try and figure that out here over the next couple of weeks going into the new year. But like I said, you know, I think there are some questions about what the future could be for Binnington. You know, the St. Louis Blues are sick and tired of Binnington's antics. Blues coach calls out Binnington. Berube is tired of the goaltending antics with Binnington. And the loose cannon of a netminder has had some issues. So, you know, it's one of those things. It's just all this attention that the Blues don't necessarily need, nor do they want. So let me know what you guys think down below. What do you guys think the St. Louis Blues should do with Jordan Binnington? Because I think a trade is off the table. So I don't think that's going to happen. Does he get, you know, told, listen, you're the backup behind Thomas Greiss? Do they send him for an AHL stint for a week or two here in December? What do you guys think the Blues should do? Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.